How's it going, everybody? It is Pilot Flame, and we're back with another FPL live stream. And today we are going to be talking about the big doubles in Game Week 28. Title of the stream is Triple Chelsea. Might have Triple Chelsea in my team now. I had 2 free transfers going into this one, so we'll take a look at those. We'll also take a look at your teams as well. If you post them in the chat, we're going to take a look at a few tables as we normally do on the deadline stream, and we will look at some of those as some captaincy options this week, because captaincy could be a bit of an interesting one. We don't have Mo Salah with he's got West Ham at home, which is a good fixture, but what about the others? You got Antonio Rudiger, you have, even Jose Sa, you have Coutinho, you got Rafinha, maybe even go something as crazy as Reece James. So we shall see how that goes, and it's going to be a fun one, I think, and hopefully we can get things right and we can get some more rank increases, and we'll take a look at the questions in the chat as per normal. And before we do all of that, let's talk about Fantasy Football Scout, because we're going to be using some of their tables on today's stream. So, Fantasy Football Scout has a fantastic members area. We're going to see some of those tables in today's stream. We got the goals a minute table, the teams to watch, captaincy and captaincy against tables. And we have more of those as well. Those are all public and available as I've set them. So, in the Fantasy Football Scout members area, if you haven't done so, check it out in the About section if you're watching here on Twitch. Or if you're watching this VOD later on in the day, check it out in the description over on YouTube. And I also have it pinned probably or in my bio on Twitter somewhere as well. Without further ado, let's get into it. That's the wrong screen. Let's get into it. There we go. That's better. Right. So we got Nobadinho, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Zodiac, hey you, Hart, yes, and he's got the Cat Jam. I got 3 Chelsea defenders in my wild card. Sounds good to me. Nobadinho has 6 double game week players, plus 2 Spurs, and 2 Liverpool. Is it better to save the free hit until 30 and 33? Most likely, I would say. I have quite a few double game weekers this week, but I probably don't have as many as some would have next week, so I'm avoiding Spurs altogether. That might seem bad. I just don't think that they're good. Is that bad for me to say? So like this week they have Everton. Okay, yeah, they can beat Everton. It's a single game week. That's nice. It's cool. And their double next week, one of the games includes Man United, which historically doesn't help them out, but overall historics, and they just seem to be too inconsistent. The one game they could look brilliant, the next game they could look like worse than Norwich, so they're too expensive to be that inconsistent. So I'm sticking with what I have, and I thought let's jump on the Chelsea bandwagon because they have great fixtures until the end of the season. They keep clean sheets. They're up against 2 teams that they could easily keep a clean sheet against, no problem. We've gone with 3 Chelsea players. So, pretty much made my decisions very easily this week. So, we had Virgil van Dijk last week, who we brought in. He was one of the players that we brought in for the Liverpool double game week. In 26, didn't play last week, obviously due to his blank. So we got rid of him and we brought in Antonio Rudiger. Diaz, who I didn't even know had an injury, is out 4 to 6 weeks. But I was going to get rid of him anyway because he plays Man United, and I didn't want him longer term, to be honest. But would have been nice maybe for him to have him, in the next couple of weeks, because City have Crystal Palace and Burnley before they play Liverpool. It just made my decision easy. And then David De Gea, I just got rid of De Gea because Mendy, Chelsea keep clean sheets. Mendy makes a lot of saves as well, or at least a decent bit of saves. And yeah, Mendy's had a fantastic Carabao Cup final as well, so kept them in it, and yeah, could be quite good as well. Be interested to see if Chelsea get a penalty against them, if he's able to save it, because he is massive. So yeah, we shall see how that one goes. But currently, I have the captaincy on Reece James. Now that might be a bit on the risky side, and I may be putting a lot of eggs into one basket there. But I think I'm okay with it. I just don't think there are any other better captaincy options. So if you look at the teams that doubled this week, you got Norwich, you ain't captaining them. You got Chelsea, that's an option. So Chelsea's an option. Southampton, not sure if they score enough goals for me. But let's say you got Broyo, or you got Che Adams. Those would be the ones there. So let's say they're an option as well. I don't have any of those players. I could have got Broja this week instead of getting like Mendy. I could have got rid of Weghorst, but I think having Weghorst longer term and just sticking with him and keeping him is beneficial and saves a transfer, because Weghorst is Brentford next week, which is a good fixture, and they still have 3 fixtures to rearrange, and I'm going to want him anyway, so I think keeping him longer term is good. Further down the line, probably get rid of Dennis would be the one I would get rid of. If I was and Watkins, those two I would get rid of, and I would hang on to Weghorst. So yeah, and then Newcastle. I don't have any Newcastle. I'm not really interested in Newcastle. I think that yes, they're playing well, but you don't really know who's gonna score. Like it could be Joe Linton, it could be St. Maximin, it could be Chris Wood, it could be Ryan Fraser, and they also could equally, none of them could score. It could be John Joe Shelby randomly. So a bit of the City factor. Like the goals can probably be a bit spread out, and you have to like nail them down. Maybe Joe Willock is probably the one I would go for if I was going to go for one. And they do have a double-double, as Noba mentions in the chat. They do. So that would be an incentive as well. Maybe next week that's something I go for. But again, it is a bit of a tricky one. And again, I probably wouldn't be captaining them. If the most I would have is maybe one in my team. I think Target's probably a good option. Cheap defender. Gets forward. Target or Willock would be my two. And then you got Wolves. Wolves don't score nearly enough goals for me. I would rather captain like Saiz as an example over Jimenez. Watford, you're just not gonna captain. You're just not gonna go there. Went there before, and Dennis got sent off, so not gonna go there again. Leeds, new manager. Don't really know what's gonna happen there. They've been struggling to score goals, period, and they've been struggling to keep the ball on the back of their net. And then you got Villa, who have been up and down recently. So basically, we've kind of nailed it down to Southampton or Chelsea, and I didn't have any Southampton players. I think also Broja and Adams could potentially see like one could get benched this week. Hey Iwas, how's it going? And that's something that is definitely possible. Is there upside with them? Maybe. But I think there's also upside with Chelsea. And I had Reece James in Gameweek 8 onwards, and he was awesome for me until he got injured. Reece James is an explosive player. And Reece James against a team like Burnley and Norwich, who are going to have to sit back and absorb the pressure, Reece James is lethal because of his crossing. He gets into space and he can cause all sorts of problems. Now, that being said, I do think that one of these 3 games, Reece James will be benched. It's just a matter of which one. Now, if we actually go and look at Chelsea's current available players, so if I go to Chelsea, if we just look at their defenders, so Thiago Silva's available, Rudiger's available, James is available, Alonso's available, Azpilicueta is not available for this one. Chalobah's available. We know that Ben Chilwell is long term. Christensen, we think is still unavailable. Sarr and Kennedy. So you have to think that Reece James is going to play this one. Tuchel also likes playing Azpilicueta in the Champions League as well. And against the easier teams, Reece James is better because you're going to have more of the ball. Azpilicueta is better for like the work rate and defensive side of things, I guess. And then midfielders, Hudson-Odoi is available and Pulisic are back available, so they could be playing as wing backs. So it is a risky pick, but Tuchel, we will bring up his quotes here. It's pretty cool to have those like little articles on the bottom. So it says Azpilicueta remains a doubt for the Premier League trip to Burnley. He's probably not going to risk that. Yeah, he got withdrawn in the Carabao Cup final. Aspie wasn't at training, so this will be too close for him, unfortunately. So basically, he's out this week. He said that Akeem was in training yesterday, and he said Reece also did training, so no problems or reactions so far after his 2 matches. So Reece James seems to be good to go. So I would expect Reece James to play. And if we go to Fantasy Football Scout, if we go to, I'm going to go to the homepage, and we go to predicted lineups, because for those that watch the team news for Fantasy Football Scout, it's a great resource. Neil then comes over here, one of the guys who does team news, and he comes over here and he puts his predicted team. And you can see here, he's got Reece James. He thinks Reece James is going to play. He thinks that Mount, Pulisic, and Havertz are going to play. Seems like Tuchel kind of likes that. Likes Havertz there. Ziyech will probably come in, assuming he makes it through. He'll come into the next game. Chalobah will probably get dropped for Christensen if he's back for the Norwich game. And I think James will play if Azpilicueta is still injured. But I think there's enough rest time to whereas he might play Azpilicueta in Chalobah's spot and then have Reece James there. Alonso playing both games I don't think is likely, but he'll probably come in for this one just because of Burnley and height and all that. All right. You guys think Leeds will start out more defensive with the new coach? No, Jesse Marsch is not a defensive coach in any way, shape, or form. Jesse Marsch is very much in the style of the RB Leipzig, Salzburg, German pressing style of football. Not as intensely as Bielsa. Bielsa is like kind of the extreme there. But yeah. Virgil van Dijk, Gallagher, Keane to James, Cody, and Rafinha for -12 means benching Tierney and Sterling, or is Keane to Cody a bit over the top? If it's like a bench boost or something, then it's probably okay, but that's a fairly sizable hit for a bench boost. Depends on who you would play in. I mean, you could just play Tierney instead of Keane and not bring in Cody. That's another thing too. Because does Cody get one clean sheet out of Crystal Palace Watford? Maybe, but not recently. They haven't been keeping clean sheets. And Tierney could easily keep a clean sheet versus Watford, although I hope they don't. Could bench boost Sterling, Ramsdale, Tierney, and Bowen. Sterling and Bowen would be a big concern. I don't think the bench boost is strong enough there, to be honest. Do I think Alonso will start both? No, I don't think he will. I don't think he will. And I also think Alonso is prone to getting hooked at halftime, too. If he's not playing well. Whereas I think that's less likely for others. Hey, pilot, all is good. Hope everything's all good with you as well. Activated my wildcard. I'm not sure to have Mount and Watkins and transfer in Son instead of Mount next game week, or have Kulusevski and Kane and bring in a Man City defender next game week, since I have none on the current wildcard. So for me, if I was wildcarding, I'd probably have Kane. I'd probably have Kane if I was going to pick one. Mind you, I think Kulusevski is very good as well. I'd probably have Kane and Kulusevski if I was on wildcard, maybe. But that's only because I can do whatever I want on a wildcard. With a wildcard, if you're wildcarding this week, you're looking to make sure that you're covered for 28, 29, and 30. Because that's what most wildcarders are doing. So that you don't have to use a free hit in 30. Which means that most likely you're free hitting in 36, probably. Or you're triple captaining then, one of the two. If you're wildcarding now, you probably have big problems in game week 30 or a bad team going forward. Potentially. I don't like, so a lot of people are saying, you know, they're jumping on Arsenal, they're jumping on on Wolves, and they're jumping on Villa. Mind you, there's nothing wrong with jumping on triple Chelsea, but the thing is, with jumping on triple Chelsea, with jumping on Liverpool, or having Liverpool, you set yourself up for not being able to field a full team in game week 30, which is not ideal. That's kind of the tricky part now, is that now that Chelsea's in, like, among it, so it is a bit of a difficult one, because if you do have double Chelsea, triple Chelsea, or just Chelsea and Liverpool in general, then you find yourself with a much weaker game week 30, and you might need to free hit because of that, which isn't ideal. The other issue I would say would be that you know, if you have a bunch of like the bigger teams as well, come game week 33, they will also most likely blank, because Chelsea, Liverpool, and City are still in the FA Cup, and most likely they're going to beat their opponents and go through, which will cause them to blank. Maybe not necessarily Chelsea, because they have some fixtures to rearrange, and they could throw one like later on in the game week and still include it in it. I don't know how that would exactly work, but there is possibilities there. then you would set yourself up for having a lot of players out. But there's going to be some double game weekers there. The one advantage that wildcarders have that are going to be wildcarding Game Week 35 is they can dead end their team into 33 and then wildcard out of it afterwards, which is nice. But it means that they have to hold a lot of money on their bench for the last few game weeks of the season, which that's kind of the chance you take, and that's what I'm going to be doing for my bench boost. So, because I'm bench boosting at 36. Cho at right wing back. Yeah, that's possible. I hate the Virgil van Dijk to James move, but it feels so good. Yeah, I did the exact same thing. It does feel good. But also, I'm going to tell you the reason why I did it. And that is because versus Brighton and Arsenal, who, in my opinion, aren't necessarily that good defensively. I mean, we could take a look at one of the tables, and I can see if I'm proven right or wrong. Captaincy against. If we look at best defenses in the league, Brighton used to be like down here. Like they used to be like top 3. Arsenal, I think, is their defense over the last 4 game weeks looks good, right? But if we look at the teams that they've played Wolves twice, who don't score goals, Burnley, who struggle to score goals, and Brentford, who struggle to score goals. So the defense should be good. And they still conceded to Wolves and Brentford in both of those games. So I don't think necessarily they're that good. And I think if you're going to have a team that's going to exploit them, it's going to be Liverpool. And if we look at Liverpool's stats here, this over the last 4 game weeks as well, Liverpool has the highest expected goals among all of them. They get a lot of shots inside the box, and also typically Liverpool and Arsenal, when they play each other, Liverpool usually does really, really well versus Arsenal. So even though it is at the Emirates, Liverpool typically do very well versus Arsenal. Chelsea feels like a trap. They have been poor lately. I mean, they won a couple of trophies recently, haven't they? It's not too bad. They played well in the final versus Liverpool. I don't think they've been that poor recently. Beat Palace. Beat Spurs. Yeah, they drew to Brighton. Lost to Man City. No shame in that. Drew to Liverpool. Yes, it was at home, but no shame in that. Like, poor results versus Brighton, yeah, maybe, but and maybe Wolves, but apart from that, they've beaten everyone they should be beating. Yeah, the Carabao Cup final sucks. They weren't great versus Luton, but again, they didn't have probably their best out there. Like, they didn't have Mendy in goal. Reece James didn't start. I don't think Thiago Silva started the game. Like, let me check the team. Let me check the team that they put out there versus Luton. I don't think it was like the greatest team. Let us see. Lineups. So yeah, they had Kepa, they had Rudiger, Loftus-Cheek, and Sarr playing at the back, with Kennedy and Hudson-Odoi as your wingbacks. Saul, who is getting better but hasn't really hit the ground running, with Jorginho, whose form's dipped a little bit, Lukaku, whose form hasn't been great, Werner's form hasn't been great, Mount, who's coming back off injury. Like, the players you're leaving out, Kovacic and Conte is massive. You're leaving out Reece James, who's a massive creator, your best goalkeeper, and Edouard Mendy. You're also leaving out Kai Havertz, who I think has been excellent, Hakim Ziyech, who's been brilliant as well. There's almost a full 11 basically would be first choice here. Chalobah or Azpilicueta, Christensen, you could argue in the back line as well. Thiago Silva, the probably best center back on form right now. Yeah, it is. They didn't have their best team. Let's put it that way. Let me just minimize Twitter here. Had a bit of a nightmare transferring out Trent to test what my team would look like without him, and I didn't realize his value went up on the wildcard. I can't afford Willock now. Cheaper alternatives. Yes, so if you do transfer somebody out, even if it is on the wildcard, you do not get their value back because you're effectively buying a new player. So some cheaper alternatives. So how much is Joe Willock? Let's see. All players. Joe Willock is 5.8. How cheap do you need to go is the question. Because if you're going to go a cheap midfielder and it's just somebody that you're not going to play longer term, you can go Martinelli, 5.3. I think it's fantastic. He's got a double in 29. He plays in Gameweek 30. They still have a couple fixtures to rearrange, and attacking wise, Arsenal is good. They do retain the ball somewhat well. And then the other alternative I would say is probably Ramsey. Ramsey just because he has a double this week and he's an exciting young player. And you wouldn't mind benching him from week to week. He's only 4.8. And I would say probably the last one, this is a bit of an outside shot, but he's way cheaper, is Gordon. He seems to be playing week in, week out. He has a double next week. The only disadvantage is he has no fixture in Game Week 30. But they do have a bazillion fixtures that they need to rearrange. So you can pop him in for the doubles and then not play him when you don't need him because he's just 4.5 million. And he's an Evertonian. So, or at least I think he is. So yeah. Brighton and Arsenal away is tricky for defense. In terms of Liverpool defense, yeah, maybe. I think Liverpool are going to go there and they're going to try to see if they can smoke them both. Because they know that they have to win those games because City are going to beat Palace, City are going to beat Burnley, and they want to go into with Liverpool's going to want to have as much of a goal difference and be even on points going into or close to is even on points or ahead by the time they get to this game right here. That's what they're going to want to do. Who do you rate higher of Coutinho and Rafinha the next 3 game weeks? Let's see. So we got Coutinho versus Southampton and Leeds. So they play each other. And then West Ham, and then Rafinha versus Norwich. I would say individually, probably Coutinho, but and that's mainly because Villa versus Leeds is the kicker, and I think that Villa is favored in that for sure. Although Rafinha's fixture versus Norwich is good, but Leeds when they play a team that's really bad like Norwich, they don't necessarily do a lot of damage to them, from my recollection. So when they played Norwich last time, they only beat them 2-1. It wasn't anything spectacular. And when Leeds lose, they lose bad. And Villa are capable of playing really well. It's just can they get the service to Ings and Watkins? And if Coutinho has a good game, I think it's just like over. So yeah. Kepa's a legend, absolutely useless. I mean, he's not that bad. I think they Tuchel made the decision. He says if we're going penalties, we're going to bring in Kepa because we know Kepa is good at penalties, that sort of stuff. And they stuck with it. They did it in their Super Cup or whatever it's called, and they've done it always. And that's just what they did. I guess the way of keeping a player happy. Mind you, he wasn't very great in saving penalties, and his penalty he missed. But at the end of the day, you're really going to ding Kepa for missing a penalty in a penalty shootout where every penalty taker scored? Yeah, it's not. Like De Gea missed a penalty too, but like keepers, it's not supposed to get that far, to be honest. Penalty takers are really good nowadays. Ramsey or Dallas? I would say Ramsey. Nita says, thinking Ramsey, disappointed that I can't have Willock now, but less than 9. Yeah, it is on wildcard or even free hit as well. If you take somebody out and try to bring them back in, it's basically like you're buying them brand new. So you try to keep the players that you have a lot of value tied up in on the wild card as best you can. Fraser, yeah. How much is Fraser actually? 5.3. Yep, yep. I would probably go Martinelli personally if I was gonna go that price point. But yeah. Hey Jerry, how's it going? Just joined the stream. Are you on wildcard this week? I'm not. I made 3 transfers. I had 2 frees, and I brought in triple Chelsea. I got rid of Van Dijk because I got rid of Van Dijk, Diaz, and De Gea for Rudiger, James, and Mendy. And the reason I got rid of Van Dijk is because next week we can go from Coutinho, who is West Ham, and we can go straight to Diogo Jota, who is fresh and back. Will he potentially get benched in one of them? Yeah, maybe, but Diogo Jota is good at scoring goals off the bench too. So yeah, and I think long term, the potential front three that Klopp goes for is Salah, Jota, Diaz. I think that's what he could potentially go for. So we'll see. And I could just go for Diaz too, because he really likes Diaz. And I think maybe Diaz, Salah, Mane could be the front three. Just depends. And I also like Liverpool's attack versus Arsenal. I like Liverpool's attack versus Brighton. Both teams haven't been great recently. In terms of like what they should be doing versus the teams they're playing. Like as an example, you would think Arsenal should be definitely beating Wolves, who can't score a goal, and they conceded a goal in one of the games versus Wolves. Burnley was just Burnley. So they're playing a lot of easy and weakened teams. They also need to get points on the board, so they're going to be under pressure to do that. And Liverpool ain't going to be a game that's going to be easy for them. I have to go for Rafinha, 0.1 short of Son next week. Okay, well, there you go. If you want to go for Son, then yeah, you have to kind of think ahead. Kepa's still the world's most expensive goalkeeper. He is the world's most expensive goalkeeper, from my recollection, in terms of his single transfer fee was 70-something million, which is crazy. But that's what desperation will do. Right. Let's take a look at one of the tables here. So we're going to bring up the goals imminent table. So these are players that are recently have been maybe struggling in front of goal or maybe a bit unlucky, and we've sorted it by the XG delta in the minus category, which means that their XG is higher than their goals that they've scored. And at the top is Alexandre Lacazette, who is somebody that a lot of managers this week will be bench boosting with, potentially. So he's had 15 goal attempts, he's had 1 big chance, and he's missed that big chance. So potentially he should be scoring at least 2 goals more than what he has. Same with Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, Dennis, who's in my team, which is would love for him to score versus Arsenal. That'd be great as a United fan. Bernardo Silva, Click, João Cancelo's on this list too. Harvey Barnes, Broja, only a little bit into the list, but it is there. Weghorst, Luis Diaz, Raul Jimenez is only breaking even basically. Saka is had a lot of attempts on goal, but yeah, some interesting names. Lacazette is probably the main one I would say there. Lacazette is the main one there. And those who've kept Watford attackers, Dennis is on there as well. If we're looking at captaincy again, so these are teams that are, we've ranked them on basically their worst defense. And basically the worst defense over the last actually I'm going to sort this by last 4 matches. Let's do that. Sort of by last 4 matches, because Chelsea's is a bit wonky, because Chelsea's only played like 1 game or something in the last few game weeks. We sort by XG conceded. You can see, I mean, Chelsea's still down there. Leeds is still bottom basically, so that bodes well for Aston Villa. It also bodes well for Leicester, who play them in the opening fixture of today's set of games. Spurs' defense has been poor. Wolves is 4th worst over the last 4 matches. Not great. Not great. So those who wildcarded, Wolves has started to turn recently, which isn't ideal for them. But if you look down the very bottom, Chelsea. They just don't concede very many goals. They have very good goalkeeper. The defense is very good. Liverpool, same thing. Arsenal have been very good. Newcastle are even better than City at the moment. We look at Brighton. Brighton are slowly starting to slip up the table. They used to be like in and around this area with Newcastle. They're slowly slipping up. So Liverpool maybe next week could be quite good versus those 2 teams. I think Arsenal will get worse because they've been playing a lot of easier teams recently. If we look at the fixtures that they still have to play, they have Leicester and Liverpool next week. Those are not easy games. Leicester, Jamie Vardy is back and does usually particularly well versus Arsenal. Liverpool, they never do very well. And if we remember, 2 of their games in hand are versus Spurs and Chelsea. One's a North London derby, one's against Chelsea. Chelsea at Stamford Bridge is a different proposition. And the North London derby is always something that is difficult for them. The one caveat that they do have is that their end of the season is versus very easy opposition. So they might have that in the bank for them. Speaking of Leicester's Amartey nailed, I don't think so, to be honest. I'm not fully confident on that, to be honest. His price makes it very, very intriguing, but I think it's because they have like injuries to Johnny Evans and like the form of Soyuncu has been all over the shop this season. And Ndidi can always slot back there, so I wouldn't count on him being a nailed game in, game out starter, to be honest. So yeah, that is the captaincy against table. In terms of the attacking stats for these teams, we look, Man United is actually 2nd in expected goals, just barely behind Liverpool. The difference is big chances total. Liverpool are much more clinical when it comes to putting their chances away. They're also the best team at basically creating or fashioning up big chances as well. They're top 22. And also they scored the most out of those big chances as well with 12 goals. So they are creating quite a lot for themselves. If we look at Chelsea, this is over the last 4 game weeks. So if I change it to the last 4 matches, I'm just going to do it twice just to make sure that the filter actually resets properly. There we go. And we change it to expected goals and we sort it. United slips down a little bit over the last 4 matches. City in 2nd. Chelsea's towards the bottom-ish. Chelsea don't typically score a crazy amount of goals, which is why their defense is something to go for. But if you look at the teams that are more struggling to score goals, Brighton's in like the bottom half. Leeds are in the bottom half. So if you're captaining Rafinha, tread lightly with that. Norwich obviously way down there. Wolves have dropped off a bit. Arsenal are still up there, but they've also played weaker opposition. But if you look at Arsenal, they've expected to have scored around 8 goals, but yet they've only scored 5. So you can say that their attack is maybe not as good as what managers are basically looking at, essentially. Same with Man United. Man United should have scored more goals than they have, but they've only scored 7 goals with the 9.22 XG over the last 4 matches. Moving on to the captaincy. So we're actually going to do this. We're going to show you how basically this table filters out. So it's basically just a list of players, and we're going to chuck some in there. So I'm going to sort them by teams. So what's some potential captaincy shouts this week? We'll put in, where's Coutinho? We'll put in Coutinho because he's probably one. And what we'll do is over the last Chelsea stats are going to be skewed a bit, but that's fine. We'll do, where is we got Thiago Silva. Oh, chuck Alonso in there. Havertz. Reece James not even on the list, but that's because he hasn't played in the last 4 game weeks. Where's Antonio Rudiger? We'll put him in there. Who else we got this week? We got Rafinha. Rafinha is definitely a good option, but we'll still put Salah in there because just Salah. Man City and Man United is probably a no-go considering they play each other. We'll put St. Maximan in there in the event that he is back. Willock would be somebody maybe you would captain, but Southampton you would have Broja, or where is Adams? Unless I'm blind and I went over him. Oh, there he is, right there, down the bottom. And then for Wolves, you would have probably maybe Saiz maybe as an outside shout. Raul Jimenez. So we picked all of them, and now let's sort them and sort it by expected goal involvement. If you look at the very top, obviously Salah's going to be there, but those that are getting in, Armando Broja, would see that Che Adams has been doing better over the last 4 game weeks. He's got himself 3 goals. He's got 4 big chances in that time. He's created a big chance, 10 shots inside the box, which is 1 less than Broja. But Adams seems to be getting the quality chances, which is interesting to see. He's gotten 4 big chances versus Broja's 2, but he creates a little bit more. 6 chances created versus the 3. Rafinha creates a lot of chances, but doesn't necessarily get very many big chances. When he does, he scores. I believe that was the one versus United. With the defenders like Rudiger, Alonso, Thiago Silva, down the bottom, they're not going to be very much involved. It is over the last 4 game weeks, so it is slightly different there. Coutinho, though, if you look at him, 0.71. Just not been great. He needs to basically score a shot from outside the box if he wants to be involved in the points, most likely. Or create something from deep and hope that the person that latches onto it scores with. And with the form of Watkins and Ings, that has not been as good as what Villa probably would have liked. So to be honest, if you're going to go for somebody attacking wise, I think Che Adams might be the one to go for. Him or Broja. I think Raul Jimenez's stats are a bit deceiving. 2 big chances in the last 4 game weeks isn't great, to be honest. You would like to see him getting a big chance 3 out of those 4, or 1 a game if you're going to be like, okay, yeah, I can nail him down to score a goal, or 2 in this game week. Chances created is quite low, just the 3. No big chances created, so he's basically just scoring goals. Not too many shots inside the box, just 7. And he's expected to have only scored 1 goal over that time, 1.07, and he did. So again, Jimenez, I probably wouldn't go there. So yeah, there's a pretty big price difference between Adams and Broja. Yes, that is also true. I will also put the caveat that obviously there is a big price difference, but also I would say that the one benefit that Broja does have is that when the balls, or the service that's going up to them, is a bit on the infrequent side, and you'll probably get one of those games where Adams will only score or Broja will only score. You'll very rarely see them both probably get involved. That's from just my like me watching the games. But I think that Broja can make something out of nothing, which is quite a good attribute to have as a striker. But I think if there's one player that could get rotated based on form currently now, it would be Broja. So take that with a pinch of salt, obviously. I'm going to captain James. Really afraid he won't start both, fingers crossed. I think he's going to be starting this one against Burnley for sure. And I mean, versus Burnley, all he needs to, if he gets an assist, clean sheet, it's that's 12 points right there already. So, because Reece James is very good at getting bonus. So, yeah, that's the situation with the captaincy. So if I had to say probably attacking options, I would say probably Southampton striker. Then I would probably go Rafinha. Then I would probably go Coutinho, and Jimenez would be last. Even though the stats say that Jimenez is probably better than Broja, I'm just not convinced Wolves are on the up at the moment. I think they're on the down. So that's just me. Hudson-Odoi has been poor lately. To be honest, I don't think Hudson-Odoi is very good. That's just me personally. Maybe it's an agenda or something, you can call it that, but I just don't think Hudson-Odoi is a very good player. I think productivity-wise, he's very, very wasteful. He gets into very great positions and then just messes it up most of the time. Like if we look at what's Hudson-Odoi's output this season, so he's played how many games? He's played 1,000 minutes. He's gotten 1 goal and 4 assists. 2 assists came in 1 game versus Villa. 1 assist came versus Spurs. But I mean, he played a string of games versus pretty easy opposition versus Norwich and Newcastle and Burnley. He got a goal and assist in 1 of them, and then nothing in the rest. So, yeah. What about Rafinha? You think his games are better? I would say Rafinha is better than Hudson-Odoi if we were going to pick that. But I think Rafinha would be... I would say you'd have Southampton striker, Rafinha, Coutinho, Jimenez down the very bottom. In that order for captaincy, if that was something I was going to go. So if I wasn't going to captain Reece James, I'd probably captain Rafinha. Probably. But I'd probably go with something a little bit more interesting and go with Coutinho, just because I think Coutinho is pretty good. What's the plan this week? Well, the plan this week is I brought in triple Chelsea. So this used to be Virgil van Dijk, this used to be Ruben Diaz, and this used to be David De Gea. And the reason we got rid of Van Dijk is because next week we can go from Coutinho, who has West Ham away. We don't need Coutinho for Game Week 30 because we're free hitting in Game Week 30. I'm using my last free hit in Game Week 30 because I'm bench boosting in 36, which means I'm wildcarding in 35 or as close to 35 as possible. And Game Week 30, we're not set up for very many players playing in it. So going into Game Week 35, we bring in Jota next week or Diaz, whichever one I choose. For Coutinho, I'll have Ramsdale, which is 1, Ait-Nouri, which is 2, Rafinha, which is 3, Watkins, which is 4, Smith Rowe, which is 5, and Bowen, which is 6. So I have 6 players, of which Smith Rowe might not play, Watkins might be benched, Ait-Nouri might not play. So it's not ideal. And we can free hit and we can bring in maybe some Spurs or something like that. Because I think there's definitely some interesting things to be had on the free hit there. So if we look at for these fixtures, like I can go triple Leicester in this game versus Brentford because I think Brentford aren't very good. This fixture is going to be hard to call though, but I think you just kind of just go Kane, Kulusevski, Son, Bowen or something like that and just go for it. This game is probably the most likely for a clean sheet. So maybe you go like that would be like your Schmeichel game. Arsenal, you could just go at an attacking defender. And Wolves, you can go like Saiss, who can probably score off a set piece versus Leeds, even if he does concede or something. Haven't really looked at the free hit, to be honest, in that game week, but that's what I'm going to be doing because I just don't have any players that week. What about Newcastle? They have 2 double game weeks, thinking of bringing in Fraser Willock instead of Kulusevski. Well, if you think about it, Spurs have 4 fixtures in the next 3 game weeks. They have 1 this week, they have 2 next week, and then they have 1 in the blank in 30. Whereas Newcastle have 2 this week, 2 next week, none game week 30, right? So that's kind of what you have to take into consideration. Are you free hitting in 30? If the answer is yes, doesn't really matter. You probably just bring in the Newcastle player. Are you not free hitting in 30? Well, you probably want a Spurs player instead because of the fact that they do play in 30 and Newcastle players don't. Now, if you already have your team pretty much set up for that, or you're going to have 10 and or close to 11 players, then I don't think it really matters too much. Just go with the better player. Trent, Alexander-Arnold, or Son to start this week. If you're going to pick between the two, I'd pick Son 100%. Everton's defense has been bad, but also Spurs have been bad. Actually, that's probably closer than I thought, but you got to go with the attacker. You got to go with Son, probably. You got to go with Son. I would have to see the full team to be fully confident in that, but I would say definitely you'd probably go Son, to be honest. Actually, I think you posted the team, but yeah, I would say start both. Start Saka or Trent. Ooh. Probably got to start Trent, to be honest. Let's see what I think you sent in your team. Yeah. Yeah, so the team that you sent to me on Twitter, Mono, I would play Son instead of if that wasn't a wildcard team, that could easily be a bench boost, to be honest. Yeah, benching Trent probably feels terrible. But you gotta play Son. You got to. That's just, yeah. You gotta play Son. To me, anyway, I'd feel bad having Son on my bench. I'd also feel bad having Trent on my bench too, to be fair. But yeah. Trent first sub, yeah. See a few people going Rafinha captain, which is interesting. Yeah, a lot of people going for Rafinha, which again, I'm not too sure how the manager thing's gonna work out. So yeah. Cheers, man. Out and about. Madhouse here with the footy today. No worries. Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty mad day. I think there's just so many fixtures today. Like there's Chelsea versus Burnley, which is a big one for a lot of people. Um, a relegation scrap between Norwich and Brentford. Liverpool playing West Ham. Wolves versus Crystal Palace, first of their double. Newcastle should be beating Brighton. We'll see. Villa versus Southampton. That's gonna be an interesting one. Is Rudiger captain okay? I think Rudiger captain's probably the safer bet. I think Rudiger is definitely probably the safer bet. Less than 4 minutes, by the way, for the deadline. So make sure your teams are locked in and ready to go. So I'm gonna make sure that mine is okay. So I'll refresh that. Okay, I'm going with Reece James captain because I think that Reece James could be quite good this week. Mount, Rudiger, Coutinho, or Broja as the captain and vice. For your team, I would go Broja captain, to be honest. I like Broja. I think Broja could be good. I don't have Broja. I didn't go for Broja this week because I wanted triple Chelsea. But I think if you're going to pick an attacker this week, I think you have to pick some type of Southampton attacker. They've just been really good. But I also think Rudiger is not a bad option too. Let me. I gotta take a picture of my my FPL team so I can post it on Twitter for you all. Just got my phone off to the side here. Let me go to pick team. And we shall take a screenshot of that. And we will crop that and make it look all nice and good. Make it look professional. There we go. Save. Lovely stuff. We can post that later. So yeah. Refresh that. So that's going to be my team there. So we got Mendy in goal. We got James with the captaincy, Rudiger with the vice captaincy, Cancelo, Ait-Nouri, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Coutinho, Rafinha, Salah, Watkins, Dennis with Ramsdale, Smith Rowe, Bowen, and Weghorst on the bench. The bench order is probably fine. I don't think Bowen's going to get anything versus Liverpool. I don't think Weghorst is going to get anything versus Chelsea. And I think Smith Rowe is likely to potentially get some significant minutes versus Watford. So if he does come on, we have him there available. But I don't think it's likely that he's going to come on because the only two single gaming players I have is Trent and Salah, and they're going to probably play. The sub thing is a headache. I think I have to start either Saka, Trent, or Kulusevski. To me, personally, I would start Trent. I think he's the best FPL asset out of those three. But it is tough between him and Saka, to be honest, because there's a lot of managers bench boosting those players too. So, but yeah, if I had Broja, I'd probably captain him. Broja, yeah, I'd probably captain Broja if I went for him, but I didn't go for him, so I'm going with Reece James, which is also exciting. But yeah, Reece James is probably the riskiest captaincy, but I'm going all out, so why not? Have some fun. Also, typically you don't feel as bad when you bring in a player. Technically, you can say Reece James is for a hit, but one of the Chelsea players that I brought in is for a hit. You don't feel bad captaining them. So yeah. I think Reece James is guaranteed to start this game. All he needs is an assist. If he gets an assist clean sheet, I mean, that's 12 points right there because he's going to be on bonus somewhere. And yeah, so 5 seconds left for the deadline. 3, 2, 1. And that should be the FPL deadline, I believe. Got one last look at the team. Gonna hit refresh one more time. It should block me out soon. There it is. So yeah, that's gonna do it for the deadline. Hope you all enjoyed it. And hope you enjoyed the Fantasy Football Scout tables and stuff as well. We like integrating those into the FPL deadline and preview streams. Less so in the preview streams, more so in the deadline streams. So let's bring up what they have to offer for this game week. and for many game weeks as well. The link is in the chat, is in the about section. It's also over on YouTube in any of the descriptions as well. I said it is Saka plus Son and Lacazette in versus Kane and Saka. Yep, I mean it's going to be one of those ones. Those are like some 50-50 calls that could go your way. They might not go your way. It is a bit tricky. But yeah, Fantasy Football Scout, fantastic members area. As we saw today, some very useful tables in there that I've created. You can create your own tables and customize them to any which way you want. It is powered by Opta Stats, which is fantastic because you know you're getting the best stats around. And they have much more in there as well. That was just a sneak preview of what is on offer. So check the link in the about section. It's also in the chat at the moment right now, and it's also over in the description over on YouTube, on any YouTube video. So make sure to check that out as well. And now let's move over to the big screen. So that is going to do it for our Game Week 28 double Game Week 28 deadline stream. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, follow, favorite, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're watching this VOD over on YouTube, we do these streams over on Twitch, so make sure to come check us out for those streams. We will be back up and running. Probably we will do, let me see how the, I can't check now, but if I remember correctly, the games are back on the Saturday again. We will do the, if the streams are, we will do probably the stream on the Saturday for the deadline. We'll do a preview stream on maybe like the Thursday, and then we'll probably do like a video maybe like on the Monday, maybe discussing like who would my who like maybe some chip strategy or something like that, maybe on the Monday or Tuesday, something like that. We'll figure it out. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and until the next one, take care.